Hi guys, welcome to the video. My name is Ivo and in the current video series I'm going to talk about domain-driven design with clean architecture. If you haven't watched the previous parts of this series, make sure you do because these lessons should be watched as a whole. If you don't watch the previous ones, you may find yourself not understanding what's going on this particular video. So, before we begin, don't forget to subscribe because I'm constantly publishing advanced C# lessons, and turn on the bell notifications because you don't want to miss them. Additionally, you can find the source code of the current video series and for the whole channel, if I have to be honest, on this link bit.ly/your-source. There's a link down below in the description, but nevertheless bit.ly/your-source. If you follow the link, you will receive a repository for all the code I use in the channel's lessons. The current domain-driven design lessons are in the domain-driven design in a nutshell folder. So you will receive all the presentations, all the slides from the videos and the code itself. Let me show you the code. The code is a car renting system separated with clean architecture. I believe this is the perfect example of a clean architecture. Make sure you check it out. You can use it as a template. You can download it and change all the business logic, change everything to make it work for your project. So use it as a template or as you see fit. We have domain layers, application layers. It's essentially a system which allows you to register as a dealer and publish your car ads. So you can publish different cars and normal users can then filter through the cars, can search and find a car to rent. So the whole idea behind the system is that we have different statistics, user registrations and so on. Of course, the whole system is not completely ready, but it has enough features implemented for you to understand the concepts of the domain-driven design. Now let's start. In the current video, part 3, we should talk about the domain model and we should give examples of the domain model itself. So what is the domain model? The domain model is the model which describes the business process. There are different categories and different parts of the domain models. The first one is the problem domain. The problem domain is the actual problem, the actual task your software is trying to solve. So, for example, this may be an online store. This may be a logistics service. This may be aircraft software, whatever you think of. The problem domain is the problem your software is trying to solve. I'm going to show you enough examples in a minute. Then the core domain. The core domain is the part of the business that must be perfect and cannot be outsourced. Consider it like this. The core domain is that part of the business that cannot be replaced. Because, for example, if you have an educational institution, an university, the problem you're solving is online learning, for example. So the core domain is the learning itself. You may have marketing team, you may have customer relationship and so on, but these are nice to have features. If you want to concentrate on this business problem itself, it's the learning. So the online learning should be perfect. You cannot outsource it, but you can outsource the customer support. It's a nice to have. Yeah, it's good to have customer support. Of course, every business needs to have customer support. But for example, if your online learning is completely free and the system is free, all the videos are free, like this one, for example, you won't expect customer support. It's not necessary to have customer support. Good. Then subdomains. Subdomains are separate business problems which can work isolated in theory. For example, subdomains for the university are a training domain, marketing domain, the research and development of the platform, of the online platform domain. You may outsource it to some ready-to-be-used system, but that doesn't matter. It's a subdomain of the product. And many other business processes that work isolated, can work isolated. You can have a marketing team, you can have customer support team. They can work isolated. Bounded context. I'm going to talk more about bounded context later in the video series, but a bounded context has a specific responsibilities with specific boundaries that separate these responsibilities from other parts of the solution. This sounds complex, and I believe it is, but I'm going to show you enough examples so that you're going to understand what exactly a bounded context is. So the bounded context will be explained later, I promise. But it's a specific responsibility which has certain boundaries. And these responsibilities are tightly coupled. And then we have the shared kernel. The shared kernel is part of the model which is shared by two or more teams. So if you have, these are the common parts of the domain which happen to occur on every subdomain. Here's an e-commerce example so that you can understand all of these categories better. First, the problem domain. Well, we need a system for an online store. That's the core, the problem, the whole problem. We have an online store. Then the core domain. The business cannot exist without products and billing because our customers need to choose some products, so there must be some sort of a catalog on the online shop, and then this catalog, the customer can choose a product from it and pay for it, or at least there should be some sort of a shopping cart. So the core domain is products and billing. The customer cannot exist without that. There is a subdomain. A subdomain is for example, reporting. What was the profit for the last year? This may be part of the solution, but it's nice to have. We can remove it and the business can still be running. Customer data. Who purchased what? Who added to the shopping cart what? And so on. This is also nice to have. Will help the business grow for sure, but it's not that necessary for the business to survive. Then we have customer support. Again, it's good to have support, but you may don't have one. Or it may be a very slow and outsourced support. So these are subdomain. Bounded context. Bounded context is we have a responsibility of a shopping cart. So we have a shopping cart which needs a product. Then we have a responsibility of the catalog. So we have two bounded contexts with different responsibilities, the shopping cart and the catalog. But then in the shopping cart, we need to add a product. So the shopping cart uses a product. The catalog also uses a product. But these two product models are different because they are parts of different boundaries. In the shopping cart, we don't need to have anything related to the product except the name, the price, and eventually a picture, some image of the product. And in the catalog, we need way more things to store. We need to have names, descriptions, multiple images. We may have tags, we may have categories, we may have reviews, a lot of stuff. So a bounded context here is that we have different responsibilities, but the models may have the same name, but the models will be described in the code differently because we have different responsibilities. A shared kernel. A shared kernel is, for example, the client. The client is part of all the domains here. It's part of the product, it's part of the billing, it's part of the support, it's shared. Another example is a pet clinic. So if we have a pet clinic, we have problem domain, which is we need a system for a pet clinic. Okay. The core domain is the business cannot exist without examinations and surgeries. So if we don't have examinations and surgeries, what kind of pet clinic we are building actually? What kind of a system we have? Subdomains are appointments, online appointments, easy appointments by the client. So a user goes to our software and appoints a meeting with a doctor. That's nice to have. The user may not have that option on the software. The user may just need to call the pet clinic, and the pet clinic may add his appointment. So it's a subdomain. Billing. The user may pay directly when he finishes his visitation, but the user may pay on the software. He may pay before he visits the pet clinic. Visit records, medical records, and more. These are subdomains. Of course, it's nice to have a history of each animal, to have, for example, what kind of surgeries were performed, what kind of medications were given to the animal, and so on. That's nice to have, but it's not important for the business. Bounded contexts. We have appointments. That's one responsibility. We have medical records. That's another responsibility. These two responsibilities are quite different, the appointment and the medical record. But both of them have a patient model. The appointment needs a patient, which is the animal uh, which will be examined, for example, and we have a medical record which again has a patient, the animal which was examined uh, 2 weeks ago, for example. So these are two responsibilities, but they all have the same model. These models in the classes in our system are different. These classes should be different. Finally, shared kernel. The shared kernel, again, clients are part of all domains. So it's important to understand the bounded context, believe me, because that's one of the most important parts and maybe the most difficult of the domain-driven design. I'm going to show you different examples. I'm going to show you different code samples. I'm going to show you different bounded contexts. Hopefully you understand what exactly all these bounded contexts and responsibilities are. Before we continue, I would like to mention my mentorship program on Patreon. It's available at patreon.com/IvailKenov, and it targets junior to regular programmers with 0 to 2 years of practical work. I'm helping people with becoming better software developers, improve their codes, their quality, the logic. I'm helping with career choices, career advancement, interview preparations, and many, many more. So if you want to advance faster in your career and improve your skills, get better jobs, get better salaries, make sure you check my Patreon out. I'm going to show it to give you some examples. So this is my Patreon, and currently 52 people are enrolled to watch all the exclusive content I provide there. All these people are trying to become better software developers. And I provide practical guidebooks, step-by-step tutorials written in the guidebooks. As a matter of fact, one of the guidebooks is about domain-driven design, and it has more than 70 pages, step by step, how to build a domain-driven design solution. I provide exclusive lessons, topics which I believe people should learn to advance their career. And why should you trust me? You should trust me because currently I'm a CTO in a large educational company, and uh, I have been coding for almost a decade now. I have been training people to become better developers for 8 years. And I have a lot of projects, and I believe I can give you a lot of value. So consider my mentorship program because I have private communities in there, live workshops. You can ask me anything you like, code reviews, whatever. So make sure you check it out. Some example videos from the last month for the anatomy of ASP.NET Core requests, the request response pipeline in the ASP.NET Core framework, how to work with Redis databases. I post some polls, so I choose the topics, but people vote which one will be next. Additionally, I post code challenges, different data structures, algorithms, a lot of things. So make sure you check it out and don't miss the opportunity. Now let's continue. Let's dive further into the appointments. We need to talk with the domain experts. We need to talk to the software clients to understand the business needs. So after we talk with the clients, we understand the following business requirements. We have clients, people. The clients are people in the pet clinic. And the clients schedule appointments for patients, and the patients are the actual pets, the actual animals. Appointments may be either office visits or surgeries. Office visits may be an exam requiring a doctor or a tech visit. Office visits depend on exam room availability. Surgeries depend on operational and recovery space availability and can involve different kinds of procedures. Different appointment types and procedures require different stuff. So all these things we understand from talking with domain experts. So all of these things are different business processes in our system. Client scheduling appointments. Appointments have different types. All office visits may be an exam requiring a doctor or a tech visit. Office visit depends on exam room availability. So we have different processes which we need to describe in our domain. All of these, and we won't be able to understand the domain without talking to the actual pet clinic, to the domain experts. So how we're going to create our model? How are we going to create our classes? First main models are clients which can schedule a patient. The client is the user and a patient is some pet. Of course, the patient may have will have different pet properties, for example, type of pet, dog, cat, rabbit, breed, and so on. We will have a schedule which will store appointments or surgeries, appointments for visitations or surgeries. An appointment will require a doctor and an exam room. A surgery will require a doctor, an operational room, and a recovery room. So these are the classes we are going to create and some of the relationships between them. Appointments requires a doctor. Appointment requires an exam room. Schedule is scheduling appointments. Clients are filling their pets, and so on. So all these models will define the appointments bounded context because these are the appointments. Client scheduling a patient, we have the global schedule of the pet clinic, we have the schedule of the rooms, we have the schedule of the doctors. All of these are apparently scheduled. Appointments bounded context. The responsibility of these classes will be about scheduling new appointments. Of course, if we need to add medical records, we will have another bounded context, and in the medical records, we will also have a patient's model. So we will have another responsibility with another class. So the two different bounded contexts, the scheduling or the appointment and the medical records, will have two classes which will have to the same names but different purposes. Patient for the medical record purposes and patient for the scheduling purposes. And this is super important. It may seem counterintuitive to add the same class name for the same thing in the real world, in this case the animal, but imagine that if you have separated responsibilities, you will lower your chances of having spaghetti code, because the one patient class will, if you have mixed responsibilities for the appointments and for the medical records, you will have more spaghetti code, and it will be more difficult to extract microservices if you decide to do so. So patients, in terms of two different bounded contexts, you will have some of the properties in the one class and some of the properties in the other class, and that's the whole idea here. Each responsibility will have their domain model, and that's the beauty of the domain-driven design, because then it's easier to extract microservices, it's easy to scale the application in terms of development. Spaghetti code doesn't happen that much because you use the correct patient class. So you have two patient classes, but with different properties and operations depending on the responsibility, depending on the bounded context. So the domain model, for which I'm going to show you a lot of examples in the next videos, but the domain models are the heart of the software. They're not bound by the technology. They should just follow plain old object-oriented principles and plain old solid principles. That's the most important thing about the domain model in terms of how we write it in the code. It will contain business logic, business rules and validation. It will contain everything which can fit in these classes in terms of logic and rules. All the behaviors should follow the ubiquitous language. All the behaviors, and what's that language all about? Well, it's a language which the domain experts will understand. This is why I told you earlier that the domain-driven design follows the domain expert's language. You describe your methods, properties, the way the domain experts will describe them. So you will have the same language as them, and reading the code will explain you what is the business process and what is the business operation, because you use the same language as the pet clinic employees. And here we have two different kinds of domain models. The first ones are anemic and the second ones are rich. Anemic domains objects are dull. They don't have any business logic and contain only data. This is the classical approach. I'm going to show anemic domain models when we reach the code. But anemic domain models are just getters and setters with data. Plain old objects, which are kind of dull. They are not encapsulated, the getters are public, the setters are public, everything is public there. And they don't have any methods, any operations, they don't do any business logic. They are good for CRUD operations only. And a lot of systems use them. A lot of systems use domain objects which are dull. What are rich domain models? Rich domain models are different kinds of objects. First, they're encapsulated in the best possible manner. They're encapsulated. You cannot change whatever you like. You have behaviors. The classes have methods and different behaviors. Every change of the state happens with a method. You will see when we reach the code. This way, the class cannot be forced in a spaghetti code. You won't be able to change the state of the object without moving through the methods. And this is huge, because if you have public getters and setters, you can mutate the object whatever you like. And by allowing a lot of mutation, you are allowing a lot of bugs, a lot of complexities, a lot of spaghetti code, a lot of code mess in general. And when you have a huge encapsulation and everything happens with specific methods, and all of the domain and all of the business logic is hidden behind that encapsulations, chances are you won't have that much complexity describing the operations. You see how the bounded context works by separating different classes, and how the rich domain models uh, reduce the chances of you having a lot of mixed responsibilities, because bugs happens when you have mixed responsibilities in a single method, in a single class, when you have mixed responsibilities in a single module. And when you have mixed responsibilities, it will be difficult to extract microservices later. So that's super important. And most importantly, our models should be persistent ignorant. So all of our models should not understand anything about databases, entity framework, and such. That's super duper important. You know what Anemic domain object is? I guess so, because most probably you created a project with the database-centric approach, and most probably used a plain old COR object in which you just create public getters, public setters, nothing is encapsulated, and so on. And this is one of the reasons spaghetti code becomes more and more problematic uh, when more development is happening. So the rich domain models to the rescue. We are going to see them in the next videos. So guys, if you have any questions for the domain model, leave a comment below and I'm going to try to answer as soon as possible. Don't forget to like the video, because this way you're helping my channel grow and you're motivating me to continue providing you different kind of lessons for advanced C# knowledge. If you have friends who you, um, who you think will benefit from these courses and from this channel, make sure you share it with them. I'll be extremely happy. And before I finish the video, I would like to thank my sponsors Endeavor, Smart IT, and Tsuke. Let me talk a bit about them. First, Endeavor. Endeavor is a great company which is constantly searching for passionate developers. They use latest technologies and cloud platforms. So if you're looking for your first job as a programmer, or if you're looking for a lot of for a career change, make sure you check their website out. Then we have Tsuke. Tsuke is a major company with a great culture. When I negotiated the sponsorship with uh, with them here in their local office in my hometown, I was super impressed by the manager, because the manager was all about the people, all about the employees. She wants to make sure everybody is happy in their workplace. And if that's something you're after, the company culture, make sure you check Tsuki out. Finally, if you live in Bulgaria, Smart IT is a good choice for career advancement. They're a fintech company, again using the latest technologies. All .NET frameworks are welcome in these three companies. Good guys, thank you very much for being with me, and I'm going to see you in the next video. Bye for now.